Hello, history learners. I'm here to share fascinating stories from history in an audio format, perfect for listening while doing chores, studying, or just relaxing with something interesting in the background. If you enjoyed today's episode, consider subscribing for more history content like this. Without further ado, let's dive into today's episode and uncover the remarkable story of how the Eiffel Tower went from a temporary structure that many Parisians wanted demolished to becoming one of the most iconic landmarks in the world. In the late 1880s, Paris was preparing for a grand celebration. France planned to host the 1889 Exposition Universelle, a World's Fair marking 100 years since the French Revolution. To commemorate the event, organizers announced a competition for a monumental centerpiece that would stand at the Champ de Mars beside the Seine. The winning proposal came from the engineering company of Gustave Eiffel. The design was radical for its time, a massive iron tower rising 300 meters into the sky, taller than any structure humanity had ever built. Construction began in January 1887. More than 18,000 pieces of puddled iron were assembled with millions of rivets, and after just over 2 years of work, the tower was completed in March 1889. Today, the Eiffel Tower is celebrated as one of the most recognizable landmarks in the world. But when it was first proposed, many people in Paris hated it. The backlash was immediate and highly public. On February 14, 1887, a protest letter titled "Artists Against the Eiffel Tower" appeared in the newspaper Le Temps. It was signed by prominent cultural figures including writer Guy de Maupassant, composer Charles Gounod, and architect Charles Garnier. They argued that the proposed tower would dominate and disfigure the skyline of Paris. The letter described it as a gigantic black factory chimney that would humiliate the city's classical beauty. To many critics, Paris was defined by stone cathedrals, elegant boulevards, and carefully balanced architecture. Eiffel's tower looked industrial and mechanical, more like a machine than a monument. The controversy reflected a broader debate taking place in 19th century France, whether engineering could ever be considered an art form. Gustave Eiffel defended the project passionately. He argued that the tower's form followed principles of mathematical harmony and structural necessity. In his view, beauty could emerge from engineering itself. Despite the criticism, construction continued, and when the exposition opened in May 1889, the public flocked to see the tower. Visitors rode elevators high above Paris and experienced views of the city unlike anything people had seen before. The tower quickly became the main attraction of the fair. But popularity did not guarantee permanence. From the beginning, the tower had been legally treated as temporary. Eiffel received a concession granting him the right to use the site for 20 years. After 1909, ownership would revert fully to the city of Paris, which retained the authority to dismantle the structure. There was no dramatic demolition order waiting to be carried out on a specific day, but the possibility of removal was very real. Many structures built for World's Fairs were routinely demolished afterward, and maintaining the enormous iron tower was expensive. By the early 20th century, there were still influential voices who considered it an eyesore that had outlived its purpose. Gustave Eiffel understood that if the tower was going to survive, it needed to become useful. He began promoting scientific experiments from the structure. Meteorological observations were conducted from its heights. Researchers used it for aerodynamic studies. Most importantly, the tower became a platform for wireless telegraphy, the new radio technology that was beginning to transform communications around the world. In 1898, inventor Eugène Ducretet successfully transmitted wireless Morse code signals between the Eiffel Tower and the Pantheon in Paris. Soon afterward, longer-distance transmissions followed. The tower's immense height made it ideal for radio antennas. The French military quickly recognized its strategic value. Captain Gustave Ferry, one of the pioneers of military radio communications, expanded wireless experiments using the tower as a transmission station. By the early 1900s, radio equipment installed on the tower had become an important part of France's communications network. This practical usefulness changed the tower's fate. What had begun as a temporary exhibition structure was now valuable infrastructure. Removing it no longer seemed sensible. When the original 20-year concession expired in 1909, the tower remained standing. Its importance only grew during World War I. The French military used the tower's radio systems extensively for communications and signal interception. Wireless intelligence operations linked to the tower played a role during the Battle of the Marne in 1914, helping French forces coordinate defenses against advancing German troops. By then, the argument over demolition had effectively ended. The irony was impossible to miss. The very qualities critics had once condemned, the exposed iron framework, the unprecedented height, the industrial appearance, became the reasons the tower survived. Its engineering made it useful. Its height made it strategically important. And over time, the structure many Parisians once considered a disgrace became the defining symbol of Paris itself. More than a century later, the Eiffel Tower still stands over the city, not as a temporary monument from a forgotten exposition, but as one of the most famous landmarks on Earth. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed this journey into history. Be sure to come back tomorrow for another fascinating story from the past. And if there's a historical topic you'd like to hear about, feel free to leave a suggestion in the comments. Your ideas might inspire a future episode.